At this point, you've already developed one speech, the introduction speech. You know that it involves introduction, a body, transitions, and conclusion. You may be wondering, well, how do I work on this informative speech? How do I build it? Well, you're going to use that same structure, the introduction, body, transitions, and conclusion to build your informative speech. There'll be a few things that we do differently. However, most will be a bit of a refresher for you. Throughout the next course of videos, I'm going to talk about ways to organize a body, how to build a strong introduction, what makes an effective conclusion, and how to have clear transitions between your main points. So let's move to our first idea, the body. For this informative speech, you will need 3 main points. Each main point will need 2 subpoints. You may use subpoints, however, you do not need to go into that much detail for the speech. So when it comes to ways to organize those main points, you could organize using a chronological order. This means that you'll begin at a particular point in time and continue either forward or backward. While your book mentions you going backward, I recommend purely going forward. Here in Western culture, we have a linear pattern with our time, always moving forward. Therefore, your audience will expect that. Keep in mind, a chronological order is a great order to use for the history of a person, the history of a product, or the history of a process. Or you may decide to use a causal approach. Causal probably reminds you of the word cause, right? Hopefully that connected there. But in a causal speech, you are creating a cause and effect order with your main points. One thing you could do is you could focus on one cause, main point 1, short-term effects, main point 2, and long-term effects for main point 3. This was highly effective for one student in the past who created a speech on smoking. He talked about what caused him to become a smoker in the first place, and what causes other smokers to usually pick up their first cigarette. Then in main point 2, he moved on to talk about short-term effects of smoking on the body. And in main point 3, what were the long-term effects and how those can affect the body. However, that's only one way to go into a causal approach. You could have your speech focus on multiple effects, where your topic in and of itself is the cause, and main points 1, 2, and 3 are the variety of effects. For example, the effects of watching too much television on children. Another way, problem solution. With this approach, you have a harmful or either difficult situation and you present that problem. Then you talk about ways or maybe the top recommended plans out there to solve that problem. Keep in mind that this can always be a hybrid with the causal effect. So what I've seen done before, cause and effect, main point 1 and 2, are presented as the problem. Then main point 3 is the solution. This is very typical in speeches related to medical illnesses. Think about it. The cause of the illness, the effects of the illness, and then treatments. That's a causal problem solution hybrid. However, that's only one method. If you want to keep a purely strictly problem solution approach, you could always do main point 1 of the problem and main points 2 and 3 as common recommended solutions to said problem. Be aware that you point out recommended approaches to solutions, not what you think the top solution will be. Remember, the speech is informative. Or you could use a spatial approach. With this approach, the content of your speech is really organized by the relationships of physical distance. This may mean moving from east to west, or west to east, north to south, or south to north. That would be more of a geographical based spatial speech. But you could also think about maybe moving in certain directions. such as moving inside or moving outside. Giving a speech on the body, you could discuss the skin, the muscles, and then the bone. That would be you moving inward. Please note that spatial as an approach to organizing your main points is not in your textbook. However, it's a very valid option, and I wanted to present that to you as well. Then lastly, you may have a topical speech. A topical speech is a speech where the order of the presentation is really just one main topic divided into subtopics. It's really easy to figure out because the order is not as important. If I were giving a speech on emotions, and emotions was my topic, and I decided to talk about fear, sadness, and happiness, I could organize those into any order. I could talk about happiness, fear, sadness. I could talk about happiness, sadness, fear. Again, the order wouldn't really take away from the overall message. But in other speeches, the order does matter. It'd be really weird in a chronological speech to talk about the past, then the future, then the present, or the future, then the past, then the present. You expect a linear order to go in order. But here for topical, you see your order isn't really as important. So those are some ways to structure your main points in the body of your speech. You may already have some good clues about what order would be best for your speech. However, if you still need to work on it, I would say play around. Do a concept map. See what works best. What do you really want to talk about? After a while, it'll become pretty obvious, and you'll say, hey, that's the best order for me.